cooler than Utah. Hi, Deb.
Oh, hey. How are you?
Okay.
I mean, do you want to come join us up here? You can. Yeah. I just didn't know if you wanted. Sure.
You can be at the cold kid table. Come on.
Please.
I haven't heard from her. We can grab a chair though if we need.
Okay, well, we'd like to welcome you to our work meeting. It is Thursday, May 15th. So we're going to first turn some time over to Dave Harris with emergency preparedness. He has something to.
Yeah, yep.
So once a month, I attend a meeting, a county emergency preparedness meeting. And they're going to Everbridge. And Everbridge is mass notification with incident communication. So I was planning on being the contact for Hooper, but I can't because I have to be an employee. So it has to be an employee of Hooper. The reason it's kind of urgent is the training is on the 12th of June. And they will, and they do all kinds of things, but this is the part that Weaver County is adopting.
The training's like 1 hour or something like that. It's not
It'll be about an hour. It would be after the,
after the regular meeting.
yeah, well, after the kind of the round table, so maybe 2:30, and start at 2:30 maybe. But the meeting actually starts at 2. So we need an employee.
Okay, tell us again, Dave, when that is.
June 12th.
Continue
Over the sheriff, the sheriff station in the building just to the west. I
Their
think.
training center.
Yes.
they call it? Okay.
I
Okay.
could go if I need to.
Okay, June 12th, 2 o'clock, Sheriff Training Center. And you're
So I will
thinking,
be there. But I can't be the city rep, and it's a liability thing. So whoever,
Okay.
it's because once it's used, once there's a message that's deployed through this, the accountability belongs to the originator.
okay,
No.
we'll figure out somebody
So,
that'll do that.
12.
Okay,
Okay.
yep, June 12th. We'll make sure we have
Any
somebody
questions
there.
about it?
No, I
Okay.
don't think so. Hey,
Thanks,
thank
Dave.
you.
I
Okay, we'll find someone to do that then. Okay, let's see.
don't want to be on the hook.
So, I just have a couple of things to go over, and Lieutenant Slater's supposed to be coming to talk about an interlocal agreement. I don't know any more than that.
He emailed me. Let's see. Interlocal agreements are coming due for the crime scene investigation unit. I've attached the new document. I know council meeting is tonight, but this needs to go before the county commission as well. If we can get it on the agenda or through with the process for city council, that'd be great.
So he'll
be
explain
here
it to us a little bit, and then we'll have to get that, I guess, on the.
It's for the provision of technical forensic services.
So it's separate. And regular contract with them,
Yeah,
it sounds like.
so I'll share that with you guys after
Okay,
he's here to present that.
okay. Just real quick, so it was brought up that they were doing the audit with the stormwater. That Hooper, they periodically pick different cities, and Hooper was the one that was picked, and so we met this week. And we reviewed this, and we had 83 findings. So that's what it is. Yeah. So with that, yeah. Yeah, we were really kind of hoping for somewhere around there. But a lot of this is clerical, and so our time period started on Monday. We have 1 month to come up with a plan, then we have 6 months to complete the plan. So what we did on our meeting on Tuesday is JUB was here with us. Jared was actually sick that day. But so we went through and evaluated what things could be done within the first 2 months, and we gave them a number 1, the next 2 months, number 2, and the last 2 months, number 3. And then we kind of went through and assigned who then was going to be responsible as far as taking care of all of this. The only thing that we're going to try to see if we can maybe get them to do an extension, which Jared has asked, is that we have to have storm sewer system map of the MS4. We have to have all our storm drain pipes, catch basins, all of our old infrastructure for the entire city. All of the new, we would have that, but all of the old, we do not. And they're figuring GIS. Yeah, it's the GIS mapping, and they said it's going to be at least 100-hour project that would be done. So Jared has asked them if they would possibly give us 4 years to complete that, because the thoughts of having this done in 1 year doesn't even seem realistic for us to be able to do, but we haven't heard back yet. There will be some costs associated with this, because even just because a lot of this is just reports, and it's going to take a lot of hours. JV said they had like an intern that they think they could probably get to come and do some of this for us, so it could probably be less expensive, but it is something that we don't have a choice and we have to do. Jared has made the comment more than once. Even the amount that we're paying to JUB to take care of this is so far less than our fines we will have to pay to the state. If we don't take care of all of this, there's no comparison. It has to be done. So I will keep you updated when we find out more what this is actually, how much time they think it's going to be. So you're probably familiar more with this county than because your husband's done this, but
I've just heard about the horror stories.
yeah, I mean, some stuff is actual physical things we're going to have to do. Not many, a lot of it really is, it's a matter of us having reports and having to make sure, because that's some of the things we just plain didn't have. There's even some things, as much as it talks about, we hadn't prioritized targeted areas that could result in reduction of nitrogen, phosphorus. They were talking about like this is an educational thing. Well, this has to do even to farmers, because with fertilizer that they use are actually the natural fertilizer, but it could be as much as easy, I should say, as getting a pamphlet constructed that then you send out to the farmers that say, having something on our website. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know on that. I guess it could be worse, but it wasn't great.
So it's up like holy water, stormwater, I think it was under the jurisdiction of the FEMA. So the federal government, so they just kind of handed it off to the state. Unfortunately.
As far as I know, because they told me different names. Yeah, as far as the state, and they were mentioning names that I wasn't familiar with that have to do with the state. But these who came and met, I think were with the state. So I think that's not against the state people. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe, we just.
Yeah. No, I don't really know. And some things, it just talked about like having agreements, and we need to work with the fire department, the health department, the Weaver County. Anyway, a lot of this really is paperwork. Like the majority of it really is paperwork. There were a few things in our shop that needed to be corrected. More than that, though, most of these, there's a couple of ordinance changes that will directly affect the council. And we'll have to work with this with Brandon, because it says that our ordinance doesn't specify, this is one thing, it doesn't specify that if someone was going to be draining their swimming pool, where that water can be discharged. So yeah, an illicit discharge. And I said, what, people just don't put it on their lawn? I mean, that's what we've done. We put on their lawn. Well, but we actually have to have an ordinance that says that only dechlorinated swimming pools may be discharged, and that's why I brought up the question, okay, well, most of them now, instead of using actually chlorine or like bromine, like ours, that was, it wasn't chlorine, it was bromine, which is the same, but now there's salt water. So we need to look into, well, can you discharge salt water into the storm? We don't know that either, but anyway, that's an ordinance, but there were a couple of things that were ordinances that when it comes down to, you know, we'll have to be involved with that. Some things as far as training that our hires need, our new hires and training, records that need to be kept. So again, we'll keep you posted, you know, as we hear more, this will be an ongoing thing that they'll be working on. But like I said, we only have 1 month to get our plan and we're going to do revisit that. So. Okay, so I recently, in fact, this week, I'm actually on the Healthy Utah Advisory Council. And so just a couple of things, not that we have to do anything about this tonight, but just to get us thinking. So things we need to be working on. I know you are, Debbie, on our Healthy Utah Community Designation. So we need to be constantly working on that. So next year when we're ready to apply. But some things they brought up, which we might look at, they said even like having community gardens or farmers market and you know, I'm not saying that's anything, but that was just on my mind because I was just at this meeting.
We have those, a lot of those community garden cupboards throughout the city that people utilize that,
Share
pretty-
boxes,
that they put them up on Facebook.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we have a lot of those throughout the city that are being used.
yeah.
So
throughout-
we have those, Debbie, is that what you're saying?
What?
We have those
We
right now.
have those people, people do those every summer and you put them on
They do the
Facebook.
boxes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, and they put their produce in and then people go get them, so.
Put those locations on the web. I know they probably do it on Facebook, but maybe on our website.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll have to, you know, as they pop up, just get their information and then we can put them on our city website.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Well, and maybe if you'd even like to put together a little report and you just update us on where we are with our designation, what things we need to be, because maybe there's things we should be working on, maybe we're not, or maybe we are, but maybe just next meeting, give us a little report. That would be great. Okay, another thing too, and we didn't really talk about this with the budget because we're not, but Text My Gov is something let's be thinking about because that contract we have until December. We paid a little over 10,000 last time for the 2-year contract, and so be thinking about that. But again, that's not anything we need to decide right now, but just something to be thinking of. Okay, so Hooper City was invited. I received an invitation to a governor's meeting on May 29th that myself and one other person could go to. It is Governor Cox Advancing Housing Solutions in Utah. 45 cities were invited, and it's at the historic Governor's Mansion. We have a grandson's graduation that day at Utah State, so I'm not able to go. So I asked Jace McCormick if he would want to go. And is there one of you that would be interested in going to this? And you can look at your schedules and let me know. But May 29th from 11 to 1, they're providing lunch, but I just need to RSVP if there's anybody that would like to go with Jace to that. But again, 45 cities, and not all the cities in Weber County have mayors were invited. Some of us were, but not all of us were. But anyway, but I wish I could go. I've always wanted to go to the historic Governor's Mansion, but I'm not going to miss our grandson's graduation. So anyway, let me know if you're interested on that, May 29th from 11 to 1. Okay, so budget. Should we go through any questions on budget that anybody has, or even it could be on the monthly financials? We've had the Marches now for a little bit, but you just received the June financials, so excuse me, April financials, sorry about that. But does anybody?
I was gonna ask you, did you get us copies of
Mhm.
that?
I do, yes. So do you want to go through that first or have Cammy go through?
Are you leaving after we're done with this? If we could go through that
Okay.
application.
Sure,
that would be
yes.
Great.
Yes, and I printed these off, and then I have a little bit of a timeline I can go through with this. Just run through these. Okay,
Thank you.
so sometime the first, somewhere before December 4th, Taylor with JUB had said there was a possibility of applying for a grant that is a TPA grant, is the Technical Planning Assistance Grant. So we were in a real time strain because this grant had to be submitted by December 11th. And so as you can see, what this grant includes, it is transportation. The purpose of this was a transportation planning assistance grant that would go through and help us with some transportation and also with some design standards. So that was December 11th. We didn't hear back until March 14th when we received a grant award letter sent. And then our next meeting we had where I presented this to you was March 27th. Then we talked about it on April 23rd. We talked about it on May 7th. So you are welcome to look through this. So what this grant ends up being, and I just kind of highlighted some things. So it mainly is about with design standards, with reviewing our general plan. We're really supposed to be reviewing and making updates to our general plan every year, which we really have not done that. So if you look on page 3, it kind of explains. So there's going to be public engagement, it kind of explains that, and kind of the same, you know, they mentioned about some public meetings, hearings, design standards that would be on street design, residential design, commercial design, updating if we feel like there's anything that we want to update as far as with our current zoning ordinance, future land use maps. They're just saying there's some good places to start. Page 4, it talks about finalizing as far as our transportation master plan, and that was what we voted on last time. And as far as updating design standards, particularly for roads and streets, reviewing our zoning ordinance map, future land use map, drafting proposed amendments. If you go to page 5, it talks about updating design standards, refining zoning and land use maps, streamlining our ordinances, coordinating with UDOT, Wasatch Front Regional Council. One thing that's really prioritized, and on page 6, you'll see about 3/4 of the way down, prioritizing alternate routes for bikes, pedestrians, equestrians. So that's one thing they're really, and again, it talks about road development standards, traffic, equestrian, pedestrian. So that's one thing this was, it's just a planning. So, and that's what Taylor had mentioned, that they can use part of this as far as planning our roads. So it's actually a way for us to get some of those design standards done. So we will pay 10,000 and we get 90,000, which is really a great asset to be able to do. So just kind of some more timelines then. So the next portion of this then is a preliminary scope of work needs to be drafted, and then they have to do an RFP for consultants. So anytime we have a contract, like we've already familiar with that, over 25, they have to have an RFP that they're going to send to consultants. And then we will pick what consultant we want to do this. And so none of this even starts till after July 1st, because then that's when, you know, this is in next year's budget. And then we'll consult, or we'll select the consultant. Tentatively, they're assuming this work would start maybe about August 1st of 2025 and would be completed January 31st, 2027, which puts us a pretty good place in line, considering that our general plan was last done in 22. By the time this is completed, it would be about 5 years. And it's not anywhere near an overhaul of our general plan. It's mainly to look at roads and design standards for commercial, and they do say in here, if you go through and read, it talks about West Weaver Corridor coming through, which we know is going to be coming through, absolutely coming through. And so to kind of start looking at some design standards or anything we would like to change within our maps to maybe accommodate that road coming through.
Fine. Yeah, I'm not opposed to this, but however, I wish it would have, or I think it needs to go through the proper channels, because this looks like it's a general plan. It appears, we'll just, let me just kind of finish and get everything out.
And to piggyback that, who came up with this language? Like, where does language come from?
the grant writer, it wasn't me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it should have originated through the planning commission first and let them, that's where opening general plan starts at the planning commission, not up here. And I understand there were some time frame issues there and whatnot, but it looks like you met those, but that probably should have went to them first, in my.
Sure. So when we write grants, it doesn't ever start there, and you really never know if you're going to get the grant. All this is language in here for us to qualify for a grant or not, but before anything's ever done, and as far as like doing the scope and before anything is ever done, like certainly if there's open houses or any of that, yeah, we're not eliminating anybody from the process, we're just not to that process yet. So by the time we actually get an RFP, it goes to a consultant, we pick a consultant and we start having meetings. Certainly, planning commission will be involved, you'll be involved, key stakeholders in the community should be involved. Just anytime when you do anything like that, and generally they recommend having, of course, someone from city council, someone from planning commission, so many people from residents. We're just not to that point yet. All this was a submittal for a grant. We were awarded the grant and we haven't even gotten to that
Right,
point yet.
but there's still a commitment that we
Yeah.
need to commit to before, they even know about it. So I'm struggling a little bit that they didn't at least know about it. Or have some kind of a heads up on what's happening. So not that this stuff is bad, I'm just
Yeah.
a little concerned about the process and about
Yeah, no,
everybody being on board with it, just not us like, okay, we're gonna pay 10,000, what are we actually signing up for?
And like this letter says, that you signed, this will significantly change Hooper City and our current general plan. There will need to be zoning and transportation.
oh, not
updates.
the grant will. I'm talking about,
Oh, no, but that's.
This,
part of
yeah.
it.
that we signed up. to
These
do.
updates will allow for an increase in understanding of the city's needs and will help us prepare for responsible development.
yeah, so start over and read what I was referring to. I said about the current maps, the West Weaver corridor. That's what I'm saying will significantly change Hooper City in our current general plan. The corridor will. I don't think anybody's denying that when West Weaver corridor comes through here, that it is going to significantly change Hooper City, and it is going to. Does everybody agree?
Yeah,
Because
it is,
that's,
but.
yeah.
I think- But that, yeah, I'm just supporting her, what I said,
Yeah,
why wasn't our planning commission kind
Well,
of in the loop on this?
because
Somewhat.
again, it was just a grant that was written. We didn't even know if we were going to get the grant. There was nothing for planning commission to be a part of this because we had a grant writer that wrote a grant. We had an opportunity to get a grant. There was nothing to have asked them about. Once we've got this now, once we get to the scope of the work, then sure, they'll be included. All of us will be included on the scope, but we're not even there yet. So far.
Hypothetically, if we sign up for this and then it goes to them and they reject it, or we have 10,000.
Well, why would
I don't
anybody,
know, I'm just saying, that's a possibility.
why would anybody reject
I don't know.
$90,000?
No, I mean, they reject the plan.
They reject.
Oh,
Planning
well,
commission.
why would they reject the plan if they're part of the plan?
Well, that's an assumption that we shouldn't make for them. That's kind of
Well-
taking their decision away from them.
Okay, so one thing we need to understand is when we do things like this with the city, there's always committees that are involved. This probably won't be here at Planning Commission, you do this by yourselves, nor will it be here, City Council, you do this by yourself. It'll be a combination, a Planning Commission, City Council, community members. So it's not just going to be one person rejecting this or 7%. It's going to be just like before, you have a committee that goes through, West Weaver corridors coming through, what should we see? We could have commercial currently, we don't have any commercial standards at all as far as buildings. We haven't said we'd like our buildings to look like this, we'd like maybe a little wider sidewalk. We don't have any of that. We have West Weaver coming through. We know it's going to, probably construction starting, well, we know less than 10 years, possibly 5. So we don't, but we haven't done anything planning around that. Do we think maybe we should have some more commercial zoning along West Weaver corridor? If there's going to be, we don't know. So all this is just a planning
Yeah,
tool. Yeah,
I tend to agree with all that, but
yeah.
it's just. It needs to be handled a different way, I think.
This is to the
The process
Wasatch
needs to be
Front.
different.
Wasatch Front Regional Council. Mhm.
I mean, if we can't just pick and choose what processes we're gonna follow. If
Well-
we're gonna follow, it, we should, these guys should have been known.
Just the one example, I got page 3, it says Hooper City is experiencing significant population growth. Our population surged 26% between 2010 and 2020. And it will further accelerate 37% during 2020 to 2030. I have serious concerns with that because I haven't seen that kind of growth where I work. You know, I correlate what I do with population growth, and I haven't increased that percentage with what I do. So that data is wrong.
And they probably got this off of some state projected. But
it just,
wait,
look, I mean, it puts words into, you know, it's talking about we and our and us, and it's like. I didn't say any of this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't come up with that. Data or opinion or whatever, so I struggle with the whole thing, truly. I'm grateful for the grant, don't get me wrong,
Right.
Yeah.
I said,
yeah,
but the wording and the language in that doesn't represent how I feel or how the council feels. Or how the planning commission feels about Hooper City.
yeah. And when we do the scope and we do the RFP, city council will choose which consultant you want to do. So you will definitely have direct. You have to realize too, with writing grants, because I am a grant writer, you write a grant that best projects the need. Why should they give this grant to Hooper City more so than they should give it to Marriott Slaterville? Or
I'm using language that's actually factual.
About Hooper.
Right.
And
Well,
about
but,
Hooper. That's because you can-
according to the
that's one
projected
thing about
growth,
grants.
there is.
I mean, but we didn't meet
So-
that projected growth. If you go on KSL, we've got all these cities that are, and we're not ranked even
Yeah.
close to like Salt Lake City or, you know, the cities in Utah. And the thing is it representing, that's my concern, is it representing us here in Hooper City, or are we being driven by the Wasatch Front Regional Council or whoever is going to be putting this together, whoever provided the grant, are they going to be driving this?
It'll be us. Hooper
Well-
City, you're always in the driver's seat. They don't ever make you do anything that you don't want to do. We're in the driver's seat. And this was just an opportunity, like Taylor mentioned as well, that we get $90,000 that can help us do this. If not, where do we come up with $90,000? I don't think we should ever look at a grant and say this isn't going to be beneficial. This was just the grant. This was the wording of the grant, but we are the ones that will write the scope of the work of the project.
So we don't have to do what it says in here. I mean,
The point
I
of
mean,
the,
I guess the whole, when I read this, I think of a big commercial industrialized looking area. I mean, it just comes across. as all we're
except
gonna
for,
do is growth and roads and.
did you miss the part where it says about rural, Hooper's rural,
Yeah,
and they're
but then I read
really
the part-
important about how rural
then I
Hooper
read-
is and.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
then I
and-
read the part about that we need to plan for all this growth and
Well,
all of
we
this,
we
so.
do
we
need to
don't-
plan though.
Right,
We
we
do
do.
need to plan. I
We
mean,
do.
bottom line is we do need to plan. Hooper is growing, whether we want it to or not.
it is.
West Weaver corridor is
But we
coming
don't
through.
have to make this as big and bold as.
No,
this
it's up to
says.
us. We can do whatever
I've
we
got-
want, so.
2 questions, so have we committed the 10,000, have we paid them the 10,000?
No, because
Okay.
we can't pay that until July 1st because it's in next year's
Okay,
budget.
then the
so-
other, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's all I needed to
Yeah.
know. Then the next question is, from what I understand, this was a super hard document to extract.
Well,
So
I
we
know,
had-
I know
we
we
had
got
some
that
problems
information from.
Getting this, we probably should have had this maybe a
Well,
month or two ago, I would think.
At any time, anybody could have asked. It took me a little bit to go through and find it. I know that we had someone that called and was trying to find this and they didn't have it and they were given that information that they didn't have it. But yeah, I mean, at any time you ever want to see, it's the same with the ramp grants. If you ever want to ask, you can always ask. It wasn't ever a matter, it wasn't hidden. It wasn't that we were trying to not be transparent. This is how grants work. People apply for grants, you get them. If we wouldn't have got it, then we wouldn't have got it and it wouldn't have even came up. But as soon as we did
When
get
are
it,
you-
March.
In March.
And so the first meeting in March, we had at our first budget meeting on March 27th. I brought this to, I didn't bring you the document. I said, hey, we were awarded this grant, 90,000, 10,000, and we talked about it again April 23rd, talked about it again May 7th, and no one really seemed to have any concerns until the one individual.
It's on the WRC website as well, so it's got all the cities and all. the
Yeah.
grants that are awarded.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they approved it. I go to those meetings every month and Hooper City they did go through because when you're on the board, you have to approve. So, yeah. But
Yeah,
I think
I-
it'll be great. And some of those design standards we don't have we didn't have those in the general plan. So it's not changing our whole general plan. It's just probably doing a refresh, which we should have been doing every year and we have not. So-
It's been in place for 2 years, so it's not like we're.
Well, but you started on it probably a year and a half before that. Like Reed said, you really should redo it every 5 years from the time you start it, not because it was started probably mid-year of 2020, because by 2021, we're doing open houses and then it was finally approved. Anyway, what was you saying, Karen?
Oh, that's something. Go ahead, Deb.
Well, no, I think you should look at the general plan every year. I don't think
Yeah.
you need to redo
Oh,
it.
no, there's things in the general plan that if you go through and they have like all those strategies, that's not what they're called, but it tells you like how often you're supposed to do those. And a lot of them say every year and we really haven't been doing that, but it's okay. I mean, we just go on from here. So what was it, Karen?
Didn't Taylor say that by having this grant, it did help with those impact fee studies as well?
Yeah, because when they're evaluating
Yeah,
our
that's what I heard.
roads for this, it can also
Yeah.
go towards that.
So is this a duplication of what Taylor's doing on what we talked about last meeting?
No.
At least when it comes to the roads.
Sure. So that was our transportation, but there's also road impact fees, which we have not been charging. And you can't charge those road impact fees until you do an impact fee study. So this will help us with that. So that it won't be a duplication. He won't have to do that and this. It would help.
Kind of helps.
Yeah.
One helps the other and helps the cost go down.
Yeah.
So one of my concerns, like it talks about rezoning and stuff, obviously that sounds like that definitely we can take a look at it, we accept this. And I know there's some chatter about getting away from our 1 acre zoning in areas, or even the 3/4. Which I mean, obviously in some areas, that's not acre's not gonna work, but in some areas it works well and people want that still. So I'd hate to get painted in a box where we've got to conform with the state. Well, we give you the money, so you guys have to do that.
Yeah, no,
That's a little bit concerning.
Yeah, it never is. It's never, and if you look at the whole thing, it's a planning grant. That's what it is. It's a technical planning assistance grant. All they're saying is, we're giving you money to help you plan. So Hooper City, here, we're giving you this money to help you plan. Never, ever do they come and say, we have to do any of this.
That was what I was
Yeah,
concerned
it's a
about.
planning,
Do we
planning
have to do
assistance.
something?
That's the name of the grant. Technical planning assistance. So,
All right, and then, so you're basically saying that a lot of this is more to prepare for the next time we open the general plan?
yeah, or to look at our general plan and are there any changes we want to make? It's
Okay.
been 3 years now, 4 years since we started working on it, 4.5 really, almost 5. Are there any changes? If we don't think there's any, maybe there's things that we could spell out better. We didn't before. Back then, we really weren't allocating for the West Weaver corridor. We know that they've started now, or they're going out to bid for the environmental impact study. That'll take him 2 years, then it'll take him 2 years to do the plan. And then depending on state funding, will be when they start, so 5 years. 7 years, they could be starting on that West Weaver, so maybe we should have something in our plan if what we want to do with that.
Yeah,
So,
well, I can see in our next general plan having
Yeah.
that in place.
yeah, and there's, like I said, the date they have on this would not be completed until January 31st of 2027.
Mhm.
So by then our general plan will be almost 5 years old. So, yeah, this is just giving us money to work on this, so when we're ready to make any
I was
changes.
just
we'll have-
concerned that when you did one of these, that you were required to do all of the things that you had written, and I do.
They didn't make you last time, when you had that grant before with Wasatch Front Regional Council, they didn't make you do anything. They didn't tell you you can't have 1 acre lots or you can't have 3/4 acre lots. And that grant also was through Wasatch Front when you did last time, so. Okay,
Ask a question on the agenda.
yeah.
Who is Western Weaver Falls?
Okay, so, and now they can't even come, but I'll tell you. So you know, how it used to be Fremont 5 Coalition, but when they made Westfield and Fremont, they combined the Northern Western Weaver. But they're not able to come tonight anyway. So,
So what's the funding?
Yeah, what are they?
well, yeah, usually it's $1,000. And they did a youth retreat that really concentrated on some like mental health issues. And anyway, they had came and asked that if we would contribute to that this year, but we really didn't have it in the budget. And so they wanted to come and talk to us again. And I don't even remember now the amount. It's not a large amount, but anyway, something they wanted to come and present their plan and then ask us about.
So the amount you approved last time they came, was it 2 people? Was that an ongoing amount or just a one-time amount?
I think we have to probably approve it every year, and it's 1,000, each of the cities give 1,000, but I feel like we receive so many, because usually they give us like $1,000 for our celebration, and they give us $2,000 for the health fair, if they've had it. Sometimes it's only been 1,000, but every year we've usually at least gotten $2,000 back that they've done in support, so I don't really feel like it's.
So they doing the graduation party this year.
They help with the graduation party. They always contribute with that, and yeah.
The other way I look at it is like. It looks like a fraternity because I went to the meetings and you guys do a lot of great things. So if that $1,000, they put on some event that one kid doesn't get drunk and go drive and kill somebody, it's worth it,
Yeah,
that type of thing, so. So I'm okay with it if we can figure out.
they've been having, actually here in the city on Tuesday nights, they've been having a parenting class. We've had people been coming the last 5 weeks, like those 1 week. So I think they really do, and they have these guiding good choices that they're not only teaching the children, but they're have the parents come and so they're kind of helping us with that. So I think it's good. I think everything they do with that is good, so.
Do we have a representative still going to those meetings?
Lisa
I was going,
I was going and you were.
then I went, and then I think Lisa was.
and Dale went for a while with the, coalition, so I still go because it's been involved since day one, but yeah. So. Okay, let's see, Lieutenant, did you have something for us?
I just got an email from Morgan for the CSI interlocal agreement, so that'll be coming your guys' way.
Okay, anything you want to explain to us about it, or it's just pretty self-explanatory if we,
Yeah, so, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So the CSI has been around for 30+ years. And, basically, it's just all of the cities, instead of having their own crime scene or forensic unit specialties, they entered into an agreement. So all of the cities in the county pay into the CSI metro unit. So that way the sheriff's office doesn't have to have their own in Ogden and so forth. And so it's a metro unit, but the agreement, do they have this yet?
Not yet.
Okay,
If you want me to pull it up, I can, but
no, I brought.
I can send
I
it
didn't
to
bring
you.
enough copies, I figured it'd be next time. Just wanted to let you know that it's just, every city in the county pays into it. You know, guys' portion is paid through the, what you pay to the sheriff's office, so.
Okay, we'll have that on our next time agenda, then we can review it and then motion on it, okay? Okay. Tammy, anything on budget?
Like, more so, my question is, just, does anybody have any questions or concerns? If you've gone through it quite a bit, so. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll be happy to answer.
Fix my gut. Money we didn't have in there, correct? Because we didn't.
Yeah, we did not. Yeah, so if we when you're.
So,
I don't, that's fine.
so yeah, so I'm gonna once again harp on the 5% savings on the utility, 5%. So we collected 357, 615. So if I'm doing my math right, I think it should be, make it really simple. When we get a check, 5% goes in, and this 9,600 is always popping out, but it's actually should be more than that. And
So
maybe you changed it. It looked like I saw it
each
just
month it will change.
right.
So yes, it will change every month. And so right now, if you look on the back of the set of the financials, there's these little worksheets here. That shows how much comes in each month. And then this is the portion that we're reserving. So we're reserving 5% of what comes in each month. And I can verify that calculation and make sure that it's truly 5% that we're reserving aside. But as of, March 31st, or no, April, sorry, get my months right. April 30th. We're at 17,000. Now in the budget, we budgeted the 16 because that's what we have when we were doing the budget. If you needed more, we could adjust, that you could spend up to that amount. But keep in mind, if you spend that money, you have that reserve. But the way I've got it is it's not gonna go away if you don't spend it.
Right.
It's reserved, so it carries
So it
forward
carries
from
over.
year to year. Yeah, so it's just accumulating this balance, and then if you do spend, say, $1,000 of it, $1,000 less will be in that balance, but it's gonna carry forward from year to year. And that is actually showing on the balance sheet in order to do that in a better way. So if you look at page 2 of the financials, you'll see that there's a reserved utility tax 5%. And it's on the part where it says the balance sheet.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay, so right now there's 17 in there. right?
yeah, so each month will increase. Yeah, yep, definitely.
Okay.
So, and if you ever have a question on it.
Okay. I just, the 96 remained static for quite some time. I'm like, yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's adjusted, but, just,
And then on that, does it show where that money actually goes? Does it go right into general fund?
it does, it
Okay.
goes, so the full amount comes in as revenue.
Okay.
And that's shown as revenue, and then what we've got is. For accounting purposes, you have to just restrict it in your fund balance. So in your fund balance, or your equity in normal accounting, not governmental, you have a portion of your equity that's restricted. Because your fund balance or your income minus your expenses dumps into the fund balance of it. So your income minus expenses dumps in every year. So we want to reserve that and say that is set aside. And even if you don't spend that, that's still going to be set aside because that portion of the monies that the city's brought in is reserved for that.
Similar to road funds.
Yeah,
Road funds doesn't come
yeah,
from the general fund. it comes in
exactly.
other funds.
yeah, and your park and those types of things, yeah. Is that better?
Yeah.
Sorry. Sometimes I don't know if I explain accounting principles as good as I.
Isn't there some And we talked about last time too, though, we had two different funds, like one was listed as CERT and one was emergency preparedness that had that stagnant
I
96 that
think she
we,
cleaned it up.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because that's, and I didn't know if that's what you were
That's what I was
referring to
referring to,
too.
yeah.
so we
Yeah,
still have in community events. We have,
I remember we talked about it. It was
Yeah.
the count that was there, but we really didn't know what it was. And we said, well, let's leave it for one more year. And if we don't need it or know what it is, then
yeah,
it might not need to be,
so we kind of left it,
yeah.
yeah. So, the CERT has the 16.
I'd like to change that to emergency, because surge is it's a training, a
Yeah.
component of, and it's really not that,
Okay, so we can change it to whatever description you want.
just emergency management.
Okay,
That's pretty broad if we, something happened in the city and the storm drain blew out.
yeah, you could use it for that, yeah. You could, vote to transfer that over to the storm water department and then use it for that. So, yeah.
And on page 5, Bryce, is where it's still listed, this emergency management, this 9,600.
Yeah,
And that's the
And
one we
that's
said,
maybe
it only
start.
had 1,000 and last year it didn't show any, but then we had that because we really didn't even know what that was.
So you have the 16
Yeah.
and the 96?
Yeah,
so do we wanna
So-
call the 16, which is that 5%?
Yeah, that's.
We can call that
96.
emergency management and
Yeah.
then maybe the emergency management call that CERT. Because we're gonna use the 16 to assist with the CERT.
Right.
Equipment and stuff. Okay, let's call it that. Let's do that.
and then we can see that's, we talked about,
Yeah,
was that 96, we don't even know.
I don't know.
We don't know what it is, so we'll see at the end of the year, we could, next year's
You could use
budget,
it
not,
for CERT,
yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
yeah, so, okay.
That's on page
I
5 as
will,
well.
yeah,
Mhm.
I'll change those descriptions. So. Yeah, if there's some way we can clarify it, by all means, let's do it. So,
So if we end up back on this, and we end up with, which we know we're going to, an expense, then where will we get that money from?
That money-
Just out of our general.
we would
capital
have to,
projects?
we would have to make a decision, well, meaning the council.
Yeah,
Would have to make a decision, not me, I don't make these decisions. But I can advise you on it. But basically, you would have to decide if you want to take money out of the capital projects fund, which we have some funds there, and transfer it over to the stormwater fund to fund that. If you want to increase rates, how do you want to fund this additional expense? And you would also have to amend the budget to fund that additional expense. So right now, within the stormwater fund, we have, some sweeping of 10,000, which I think helps with that, and, 30,000 of engineering fee, and then storm drain maintenance of 7,000. But you would have to, when we find out what that's going to cost and what this is gonna look like, then we would definitely come back and revisit this at that point and say, okay, council, this is the added expense. You need to be notified of this and that we need to amend the budget for that. And then you as council, how would you like to fund that? You have some options, you have these ways that you can get those funds, and then that's, of course, your decision. So. Does that help? But yes, there is funds,
That project.
the
yeah,
the
that,
big
Storm
audit. The yucky
that
audit.
audit. Because we have 1 month from May 12th.
Yeah.
So we have till probably like June 12th. I don't know if they do 4 weeks or they do a month. They just told me 1 month. I don't know. So we'll probably have till the middle of June, which won't probably give us time because by then we'll already, we probably won't know exactly what these expenses are going to be, because even if we have the plan and they predict, it still might not tell us exactly. So I think we'll probably be looking at, I would think, doing a budget amendment once they would get that.
That's what a budget's for. It's not a written in stone document. It's something to give us a guideline, but you're gonna have things like this come up, and then we're gonna have to decide, how do we take care of these? Now they have come up, and we'll
G&B is probably gonna be doing it, so we'll find out engineering.
Yeah, and how much of it, so we say is stormwater and how much is it storm drain and, you know, there'll be further evaluation that definitely needs to be considered as we look at that. So,
And I think that'll depend too, if they can get an intern maybe to come do some of this versus. You know, I mean, they were saying names about an intern doing it, which could maybe save us some.
So I have a question about amendments.
Uh-huh.
So the budget we have this fiscal year that is coming to an end.
Uh-huh.
And there's certain areas that we've spent more than we budgeted for. Are we supposed to amend that?
we are going to be amending it, yes.
So I've got a few
It's-
problems with that. So, but anyway, yeah, that's, you answered my question,
Okay,
but that's not tonight.
yeah, that's not.
Can I just ask a question on the, budget on April's accounting thing? It's from the whole year, but some of these numbers are really a lot higher. What does it mean period actual and year-to-date actual? Does that just mean April versus the year-to-date?
Correct.
Okay,
So April is just that
That
month,
month.
anything that happened within that month in the accounting software.
okay. Cause
Year to date is anything that's been put in the accounting software from the beginning of our fiscal year, which is July 1st to the April 30th.
okay,
So, and when we're looking at budget, the state has come out and said, you don't necessarily look at each line item, you look at categories. So for example, if, I'll just throw something out there, but like, if your, public works or your highway, you guys call it highway, I'm used to call it public, sorry. Say they had some additional expenses in your slurry seal, but yet they decided not to do some road maintenance. We allow those departments to make the decision as to where best to spend that money. You know, even though we budgeted it there, as long as that whole highway department stays within budget, we're not in violation of state code.
okay,
So even though you may see some of these individual line items over or under, it's just a classification, which we're hoping to get some better training on. But at the same token, it's more so overall that department. So like your public safety, your year-to-date actual is 545,200, but your budget is 833. You're fine. But if you went to the actual animal control shelter, you're over by $1,245.
mhm,
The state doesn't care about that one item. They look at the total.
okay,
So when the state auditor comes in and looks at it, so that's typically where I look, is that overall, where are we at?
all right,
As an overall,
okay,
and that's what the state requires us.
okay. And the unexpended means that that's what you didn't spend out of that budget.
Yeah, that you have not spent in
Okay.
that budget, or if it's negative, if it's got parentheses around it, and accounting that means negative, that means you've gone too high, you've spent too much, but like I said, that we look at that total
Okay,
and not.
I thought
each
these
individual
things, I
line item.
just wanted to
Yeah,
verify that I was looking at it properly.
Yeah.
so,
yeah,
all right, thank you.
And that's one thing, Bryce, when you brought up about amending the budget, some cities amend it every time something comes up. Some things wait till the end of the year. Pepper traditionally has waited till the end of the year. That isn't something that we have to do. We can do it every time something comes up, then, you know, Cammy could come, we could amend a budget at that time. So that could be something we could look at doing differently. Pepper's just always, I'm not saying one way is the right or wrong. Cities just do it differently, so.
so I'm just following procedure from previous, but if you wanna amend every time there's a thing, and if you wanna, you know, amend each line item, that's your decision, but it will be much more tedious.
I just think on big things, yes, if something big, large.
Oh,
scale across,
absolutely.
Yeah, not every little thing, but
Yeah,
that way we'd say it looked a little bit better.
yeah,
If the big things can.
Well, and I started giving you the detailed ledger, which I know can be daunting to look at. That shows you every transaction. So if you have a question of one, you should be able to go to that detailed ledger and look at, you know, what everything went through. And I did it from July 1st to the date of financials. So, you know, but yes, if there's like a big project, like if we had a big, you know, thing that came across the board, then yes, we would definitely discuss it with the council and want to consider either amending it or at least getting your approval on the expense. We don't necessarily have to amend the budget at that moment in time, but you would need to approve the expense according to your purchasing policies. And so, which is maybe something we want to relook at our purchasing policy to accommodate that. So.
Which is currently $5,000, correct?
Yeah. I know Jared's been working on drafting up some ideas, you know, but he wasn't quite done. He's been sick this week. That we could look at, because that might be something, you know, I mentioned that last year to Teresa, because 5,000 isn't very much. We might want to change that, but that's again, something city council would vote on with the 5,000.
And some councils give a check register every council
Mhm.
meeting, saying,
Yeah.
they're the check register. I'm thrilled to give you that, and you'd rather have that than the detail ledger. I'm fine with that. I'm
Same
fine.
thing though, right? I mean,
Gives you the same information. Yep, it's just a different format. So. The detail ledger actually gives you more, but
it's not check, it's every expense. not
every
just
little
checks.
thing, yeah, every little. So.
Anything else before we go up to regular meeting?
Well, since I'm late always, maybe this was already discussed, but there's just been another couple of citizens' comments about things happening in the cemetery. And this not being a very peaceful, restful place, life should be, so. I don't know if those concerns were already brought up and stuff, and I apologize.
I think we maybe talked about those in minute at our last budget meeting. I think that we did. So there's really not a way to, or an efficient way to put a gate across, because the whole point was that. I know Jared said it's really hard to do speed bumps too, because in the snow policy said currently there is kind of one. We talked about the bid for the camera.
Well, you can always put up the no through traffic signs, but people won't always adhere to that.
Yeah.
But it was the people letting their horses graze on the grass.
And I asked,
Motorcycles and bicycles
Yeah.
and things like that coming through, so.
I asked about the horse grazing, and, you know, we talked about that as a staff, and they'll watch it. They said they really haven't seen that per se. Maybe someone's horses got out, and but anyway, they
were
said
just
that
there.
he.
No, I guess the people were there with them, just
Yeah.
sitting there while the horses were.
Well, they
Yeah,
said they'd
you know,
watch
that's a
it
good
better.
question. For you, you know, rather than make this a public works problem, why isn't it kind of an enforcement thing? Like if someone's.
Yeah.
Someone's going through and. You know. We ought to do that.
No
rather than-
trespassing. Early hours, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stuff like that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe just have like a sign, certain things are allowed. Yeah.
sure.
And I think on our front, those, because we had new signs printed last year, those new big ones, and I think it lists what a few of
Yeah,
those, but
You
anyways.
just can't go on it.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I told the person I would bring it up